Hey kids, what's for dinner?
Good evening and welcome back to EndGame, your companion to Apple TV's hit series Severance. I'm your host, Jambone S, and with me is your co-host, Misha R. Both of us are huge fans of the show, and we're here to help you manage your work-life balance, keep your innie in and your outie out, and always win the waffle party. Misha R, how are you doing?
I'm afraid you still don't mean it. Again, please.
Misha R, how are you doing?
Dude, I wanted you to do the whole damn thing. All right, so again and again and again, and maybe with the electroshock that you know is.
I broke too quickly. I needed to be more defiant at first.
Yeah, you need some defiant jazz. That's coming up, but yeah, you need to defy.
I'm no Helly. I break to the corporate will. Easy.
Apparently, very easily. All right, man. Folks, innies, outies, whomever you may be, welcome back. We are crushing them out here in our look back and planning expansions of the scope of what we're going to cover, all in anticipation of what I have heard. Like the only solid date I've heard is October of this year for this season, which sucks on many levels. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll be.
Why are you not around?
No, not at the end of October. No.
Spoilers. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, but with that in mind, we're doing a whole bunch of different things here. Some deep dives into characters. We're going to do the Lumen files and get really super geeky, apparently, and other things related to Severance, as well as the boys are coming up and Gen V and who knows what else. But for right now, we're focused on this, and it is great. So if you are loving it, as we hope you are, because here you are, please click the like, click the subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends that they should do all those things as well and start watching us. And also put us on, turn down the volume, and just let it run, because that's really good for the algorithm too, and we'll get in front of more people if we do that. I know that's what I do all day, but they probably know my IP address. Anyway, I've said that's now my new thing that I have to be sure to say is the ring the bell thing. So now, having done that and celebrated the waffle party, 104, that's what I wanted to look up. I didn't do that before we came on air. The UUR, there I think there's additional pages available of that masterpiece. So while you explain to the good folks what we're doing tonight, Jambone, I'm going to take a quick hunt for that. I totally forgot.
All right. Tonight we were talking about season 1, episode 4, the UUR. We, as the podcasters, have seen all of season 1, so we might and probably will mention things that happened later in the season. So this is your spoiler alert. Misha will probably give you many other spoiler alerts, as he is known to do. But this is your big one. So if you've only seen episodes 1 through 4, you probably got to go back, finish the season, and then come back and watch this, and then write us a 5-star review.
Exactly.
So that's your order of operations, people.
But plus, click like, subscribe, and whatever else.
Yeah. All those things, or you will end up in the break room. Okay,
we'll come get your chip, and you know what happens when someone comes to get your chip.
Yeah. So, like I said, episode 4 of season 1, entitled "The You Are." We are going to do a quick synopsis for you, just so you know which episode, because you probably haven't watched this episode in a while.
Hopefully you're doing a rewatch as we go. That would be really cool too.
Yeah, that would be even better. Yeah. Then I'm going to list our deep dive topics, and then we're going to go through those deep dive topics. I'm just going to say right up front, I better be getting some finger traps, because my notes this week are impeccable.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I'll be waiting for those.
All right.
So here we go with my synopsis. Helly finishes her break. Petey's phone rings. Irv and Burt get to know each other. Mark shreds the map. They find the book. Petey's memorial service. And Helly takes matters into her own hand and neck.
And
Okay. That's the synopsis. So that hopefully reminds you the episode we are talking about. That's what goes down in episode 4. Our deep dive topics, the things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the break room again. This is part 3 of our continuing series on the break room.
It's a big deal.
Yep. We're going to talk about Burt and Irv, what's going on with them. We're going to talk about maps and books. We are going to talk about Petey's memorial, and we're going to finish off with Helly's rebellion. So those are the conversation topics that we are going to dive deeply into, if you will. All right, Misha. So last week, I griped mildly that the first 3 episodes, the first 2 were fine, but by the third, I was like, okay, I think we're dragging out the exposition. I get the premise. Helly wants to break out. I get it. I felt like it was dragging on a little too much. This episode, though, I feel like hit the ground running. We are off to the races. We are much more into the story, into the conflict, and to the things that are going to change and happen, like all the good things that happen in a good story. So I am a big fan of this episode. It asks a lot of interesting questions that I am excited to talk about.
And it does so in a significantly shorter runtime than the first 3. This clocks in at under 50 minutes.
This is, and I didn't even notice that, but I'm just going to give it tight storytelling.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there is, God, dude, it's like there's so much good shit and detailed stuff. There's some detailed stuff that's just mind-blowing that these guys are doing, as well as apparently just flinging it out there sometimes, as I have come to find out in some of the interviews I've been reading with the showrunners and stuff. So anyway.
Listeners, viewers, actually.
Yeah, they're now viewers. We've been doing this for 8. Let's explain to some new viewers. Yeah. We've been doing this for 8 years as an audio-only podcast, and this is our 4th episode on YouTube, this very one. So we're still used to saying stuff like listeners versus viewers, but we see you out there.
We see you. So I do want to. We might have some new people because now that we have viewers, now that we're on YouTube, we might have some new people. So I want to just tell people. Misha and I, we both do our homework. We watch the episodes multiple times. We take notes. We look at it. We analyze it. And we prepare for the podcast. We come up with the things that we are going to talk about. But what we don't do is tell the other person what we're going to say. We don't share the takes. So anything that let me just refine that as far as what I've seen with this here YouTube thing. We don't script out what we're going to say. I love the podcast on Severance where it's scripted out and you're going to get all the shots, and I'm saying this as the tech guy, all the shots that line up with the script because you have the time to do that and you write the script and you do it and everything's wonderful. This is all improv, man. If you see the poster in the back, it'll all make sense. The back of both of us, actually, it'll all make sense. But yeah, we're gonna go and we're gonna fill in with clips after we find out what it is we're gonna really talk about. Because even with a set of notes, we wind up talking about different shit too. But yeah, and we don't talk to each other about the content and say what we're gonna say on the show, so we get the actual guitar teacher reacts kind of reaction shit. Oh, that is a deep cut right there.
Oh, dude, what's his name?
To that.
Palmisano is deep. Fucking breaks the shit down, dude. Go look at his tunes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So I've got 1 or 2 hot takes that I'm willing to throw out. Okay. The only thing I told Misha ahead of time is that I've got one that I'm very proud of. And Misha said he's got one too. But when I hear his and when he hears mine, we'll just be reacting naturally.
Right.
And responding appropriately. So you're seeing real-time discussion.
So my horror and disgust will be very real and very, very authentic, as we say, when I hear what he has to say.
Yeah. And when he pretends that my hot take isn't actually amazing, that's just him being a petty dick.
Right.
But it's real. It's real
I'm
when he's
really being a petty dick.
Yeah.
I'm
He's
not faking it.
He's not faking it.
Nope. Nope.
All right. Speaking of that, let's go
Thank you.
to the break room.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another break?
So the show does a really good job in the first 2 episodes of hinting at how scary the break room is. But this episode, even on the rewatch, when I've seen it before, this episode really does hammer home how scary it is. And I had asked a question early on if I thought maybe the break room was something more than just making you repeat it over and over again. I'm still not sure, but I think it's actually more interesting if it's not. If it's just literally breaking you down and making you give in to when you finally mean it.
I think that's what it is. It's classic, brainwashing, and they're definitely breaking you and kind of taking control of you in that respect. But having watched it all now so many times, and really, never getting bored of it, always noticing something more, always understanding something more at a deeper level. There's some shit going on in the break room that we definitely need to discuss. So let's go with what you have outlined. But I got some stuff we've got to make sure we hit.
I think the most important thing is it's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I think agreed. No analysis necessary there. But there's also this mumbly voice that Helly hears. Dylan describes it as a crying baby. What do we make of that?
Keep going.
Okay, so
Here. 2 points make a line, 3 points make a triangle. If it were me, it would sound like a muffled, whiny guitar. A particular muffled.
Okay,
whiny
so
guitar.
we know that Dylan's outie has kids, and his biggest concern is being a father, so a crying baby is going to be his pain. Helly, we know, has a overbearing father, so that's why she hears that mumbly, judgy voice. Is that what you're saying?
That's because here is how it went for me in my notes, and it's really interesting, like the way, like in my notes, I looked back, I'm like, oh, you could see my path to the revelation. So I had, background sound. My first thought was, it sounds like the board meetings, kind of. Right, that was the closest thing I could relate it to. But like it almost sounded like multiple voices going on. So I put board meeting, and then I said, kind of randomly, or maybe it's like some Egan speech, right there. Then it gets down to where Dylan reveals that he hears a crying baby. So they each hear something unique to them, which I bet is the cassette tape that Melchick puts in. And there's a Dylan tape and there's a Helly tape, right? So when I got down to that point, I was like, oh, so maybe that was, she is an Egan. So I was kind of right. It was some Egan, probably her dad, or maybe someone, telling her that that it's her duty to get severed.
So I don't want to go through the episode right now. I thought he was taking the tape out because it was the end of the day. And he was done recording and like, okay, you're going to go to the elevator. You're going to go up. You're going to come back down. And I'm going to now put the tape back in and continue to record. You're saying she's listening to that recording, not making that recording.
Yes, I'm saying the following. I'm saying there's a different tape for everybody, and there's a crying baby tape for Dylan, and there's,
So a very straightforward explanation that they have a tape that they know will trigger the person into being emotionally distraught, and they play it to get the catharsis response apology out of them.
Yeah, to expedite it perhaps, or to make it occur at a deeper level. I think that's what that is. And Milchick is wearing the headphones, not, he may be listening to something, but he's not listening he's listening to something that's blocking out the shit that is playing for them, like the weird, he's not hearing the baby crying, he's not hearing the voice because he's got the headphones on.
Okay. I'm not totally sure that the tape didn't come out at the end of the day.
It did. It did, but so what?
Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean he's done. Okay, yeah, it could be recording or play. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily suggest one or the other. Okay, fair enough. So to her, it sounds like it's coming. She's like, "Where is that voice coming from?" So they know what they need to kind of make this person feel this way.
And it's something from their outie. Think about that. It's something from their outie.
So they know that
there's
the
some sort of resonance. They know that there is, in fact, some sort of resonance, which means, clearly in the board's mind and in the policy of Lumen as a company, they're saying, oh yeah, severed is severed. But even here, because they're playing on the fact that there's a deep emotional, like if it's something that deep, that it transcends or overcomes the severing.
It's very Cornerstone Westworld-ish.
Yeah, like the thing that they're hearing
it's
is
like even if after they reset you, you still have your cornerstone.
Right. Even after they reset you, yes. Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is pretty obvious, but I just want to mark it. Irving goes over to Mark and he's like, "Hey, Helly's been in the break room for quite a while. Maybe you should go check on her as department manager." So he's a little butthurt. Oh, can we take that back?
No.
Irving is a little upset that Irving's a little upset that he was not chosen as the replacement for Petey, right?
I guess he had said he didn't want it, but he certainly acts like the guy who would want it.
And when you're the guy that wants it that doesn't get it, what do you do? Act like you don't want it, right? So Helly comes back and they say, "How many times?" And she says 1,072. And they go, so this is another one of these moments where I feel like they're not being super clear, like whether Helly is the extra rebellious one or not. I think that gets kind of clarified maybe later in the episode. But I feel like at this moment, the show was still trying to have it both ways. When the reaction to 1,072 recitations, they were like, "Ooh, that's rough," but not like, "Ooh, that's never happened before."
Okay, so right, exactly. And I made note of that in my notes as well. I was like, okay, they seems to me like a big number. Okay. To sit there and like basically, recite. But they don't seem terribly impressed. They seem very nonplussed. They just seem kind of flat about the whole thing. They're like, oh wow, okay, So I don't know. I mean, that goes back to the bad soap. Is Mark making up the story of the bad soap, or has Mark met the bad soap for real, which means there's such a thing, right? So we just don't know. And in a lot of ways, and again, spoiler alert, I don't even have it queued up, but here you go. Spoiler alert. We find out later that things might be less staffed than the innies are led to believe, because if you can lead someone to believe that like they're under surveillance all the time, they'll act like they are. And there's sort of an element of that going on in a lot of ways, in a very psychological, manipulative way, in the way that the staff treats the innies and stuff like that. So, forgot where I was going with that, but nonetheless, that's all going on. So watch for that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dylan suggests like acting, which when an actor or actress cries in a movie, they think of something that actually makes them cry, and that's how they act. So Dylan says, think of something you actually feel guilty about. This is another moment that rang false to me, that this doesn't actually work, and this is Dylan like just trying to act cool. Like, do you think Dylan thinking about his outie, hitting some MILFs, does that actually work for him, or is he just trying to act cool in front of Helly?
I think he genuinely feels bad for the husbands. Yeah.
It takes pity on them.
So, okay. So now I remember the thing I was trailed off on before, which is the fact that there's a lot of talk amongst the interneterati about various aspects of the INI experience not necessarily being real. Like, is the code detector actually a real thing? Or are they just told the code detector is there in the elevator to keep them from trying, right? Now, I tend to think that something's got to be there because if it's not there, then, whatever. But that's what I'm saying is that, we find out later that there aren't that many people in whatever security or wherever Dylan goes for the big event at the end. He's able to do it, and it's really just Milchek, and because Grainer isn't there anymore. So, these are all illusions of being really, really watched, and maybe they're not being so watched. Anyway, I'm sorry. Now, what was the first other thing?
So, when Dylan goes to the break room, what he claims is that he found the secret is that you go in there.
So yeah, okay. So that leads me to think that perhaps along those lines, maybe the break room, like it's not some, Scientology. You put your hands on the things, right? It's got every trapping of some sort of, they're checking your pulse, they're checking your thing. There's a little EKG strip coming out and that changes. And he is watching it, and it does kind of correlate in the way it's fluctuating to the way that Helly seems to be breaking down and the trembling in her voice. So there is that. But maybe that's it. And maybe it's all bullshit, and maybe it's all interpretive, and it's whenever Milchek decides you've had enough, right? There's no, scientific basis. There's no metric that you actually have to hit in whatever, pulse and pupil dilation and body skin conductivity or all the other stuff from like a lie detector test, right? Which is what I think that aspect of it is meant to evoke. And that's what Dylan is acting like. He's acting like it's a lie detector test, and you can fake it out by it's not a lie if you believe it, Jerry, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and what the break room makes you do is realize that it's just easier to go along to get along. And once you agree to that premise, yes,
you wind up
I'm
in
sorry
EMark.
for yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really what they're going for. But I just want to throw one thing out there. He says, I imagine that I love made. He didn't say I made love too. He says, I love made a woman. Is that a term?
Who is
Dylan
that?
says, I just imagined my outie love made a MILF or two.
Okay, so wait, hold on a second. I don't think that's an expression, and I've certainly never used it in that context. But didn't Irving say he interrupted it with gas making? Interrupted the daily announcements with gas making, right? Which is another weird turn of phrase, kind of in the same vein. So maybe there's some glitch that the chip makes you, a little, verbally dyslexic.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Okay, so I was thinking about the premise, the basic premise that we have that, Lumen wants to get people to the point where they will show up and do their jobs. And this is not proof yet. This is just one of the theories, right? That the purpose of Lumen is to get people to be ideal workers. But I was just thinking, they already, they're just taking away the one thing that already works. The best way to get people to be subservient laborers is to give them nights, weekends, and booze. That's been working for hundreds of years.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
yeah, what?
I mean, good point. So I think that is both not what you're saying, but the idea that is the goal of whatever Lumen is doing with the Severance chips is way too simplistic and thinking way too small, and also kind of dumb for them to go to all that expense because of exactly what you said. Now loose lips sink ships. So I could see like the defense industry or the military in certain situations where there's like real top secret shit. You know, there could be applications and stuff like that beyond just, you know, forgetting your dead wife for 8 hours a day.
Because it's funny, because that's what the outies think they're actually doing. And that's what the outies tell their friends they're doing, is that what they're doing is so top secret that they need to be severed. Yeah. No, that's what the innies think, but I guess
I'm sure the
kind of what the outies think too. Yeah. But I'm sure if you're an outie, they think they're dealing with like biochemical stuff, that the knowledge is so sensitive that they can't risk it getting out. And that's why they need to be severed.
People's personal medical records. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, the people who do that now and they're not severed, I don't think.
I just want to once again compliment the show, Helly's break room scene, as, you know, being more horrifying than, you know, any scene of violence or anything I've seen in a horror movie.
And nobody moves a muscle other than their mouths. She's sitting there totally still. She's sweating and trembling a little bit. Milchick's totally still. Everyone's like really calm. And it's just like, ah.
Yeah. All right.
That's
Anything
great.
else?
That's good acting too there, right there. That's what that is right there. That's good acting.
But on all parts, yeah. Anything else on Helly's break room experience? We'll talk more about Helly's later choices.
They both look spent at the end, not just her. Milchick looks like he's kind of worked.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get the scene of what Milchick does on the outside. Like, I have some theories about what Milchick does to unwind. Because I bet he's stressed at the end of the day. I bet he's stressed.
That's a whole nother.
I'm not getting canceled twice in a week though, so I'm not going to say what I think Milchick does on the outside.
Milchick on the outside is a show in and of itself. Milchick might be like Miss Casey. Might never leave. Might live there.
All right, yeah.
There might not be. I hate to burst your bubble, and you certainly could do it as fan fiction. But I'm just saying there may not be an outie Milchick. He just strikes me as like, I don't know. No. We've seen him outside. Never mind.
Oh yeah, he goes to what's his face, Dylan's house. Yeah. All right. So next we are going to talk about Burt and Irv and their encounters.
Every time I hit that, I want to say Burt and Irving.
Burt and Ernie, you mean?
Yeah, Ernie. Yeah, yeah, that's what I meant because I just said Irving.
Who were also theorized to be
gay. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So that might not have been an accident.
I don't think it was. I think
so
very little on this show is an accident, and that's something you have to remember at every point.
Yeah. And I like, again, the also new viewers, the kind of one of the endgame mottos is we never assume it's bad writing. We always assume it's intentional, just because if you have to choose one or the other, choose the more interesting option. So I'm going with it's a Burt and Ernie spinoff. Yeah.
Or homage.
Yeah. All right. So Burt shows up with the tote bags. Christopher Walken in this episode is just fucking incredible. And all the actors are good. All the actors are good. But, I mean, Christopher Walken is a class above most of the actors in this show. I mean, John Turturro is in a similar class, but, like, even though I hate The Deer Hunter, Christopher Walken was the only person that was in, like, The Deer Hunter and, like, some of the most, like, epic movies of all time. And it is, at some points, I just, like, feel like this is watching, like, LeBron James play a pickup basketball game. He is just crushing it so effortlessly. But like playing it very small. He's not really being over the top about it. He's not being like a lot of. And I don't want it to seem like I'm criticizing the other actors, because that's not what I'm saying.
Everyone's kicking ass, but he isn't a class unto himself, and so we have to look at how he operates at that level, and he is operating, all cylinders plus, yet at a very low idle, if you will, right?
Yeah.
It's just like
and
really contained.
And I don't know how intentional it is, but he's doing the things that he's like, if you do a Christopher Walken impression, he's doing those things, but very minimalized. He's like, I had to bring you your bags.
Yeah,
He's doing
it's like very dialed down. It's like a 2 for this.
Yeah. But he is just fantastic in this episode. So he shows up with the tote bag because he was worried.
Yes.
And so he gives his speech and he gives the tote bags, and Irv is all happy about it. So it's just this great scene of him bringing the tote bags that you carry the Irv Bible in, or whatever it's
Egan
called,
Bible.
right?
The Egan
Egan Bible, not
Handbook.
Irv. Yeah.
The Irv Bible.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about the handbook a little bit later, also, or actually in this segment. So he drops those off. Dylan also, pulls out the stapler.
Stapler, like he's gonna shoot the desk stapler at him.
Very funny. So Dylan and Irving have this kind of like disagreement. Dylan has bought into the mythology that has been passed down from the elders that the departments should fight. But Irving thinks Gear's vision is that all the departments work together. So, like, is this like, are these the two different philosophies that I feel like both of these philosophies were created by the higher ups, but they are at odds. Like, Irv is the like ultimate go with the legend guy. But then he wants to go like mingle with the others. And Dylan is like, oh, this is all bullshit. But no, fuck those other departments. So can you make any sense of that?
We know because there are two versions of the picture, and that there is a picture, in the first place, of this event of which Dylan references, that it is, let us say, a corporately sponsored event, right? Because there is a picture, there's a painting of it from OND of, the slaughter of either, and this is spoiler alert, sorry guys. It's either the slaughter of OND by MDR or the slaughter of MDR by OND, depending on which, badge the slaughterers and the slaughterees are wearing, right? So that's a big reveal coming up. And in that context, then, okay, so let's assume, it's either corporate sponsored or it's not, and the paintings reflect them painting something that is a legend or is spoken of. If it is that, then it either happened or someone made it up, and it's this big convoluted fucking thing. But I think it does represent some kind of conflict in that the Egan quote says, they're supposed to work together. It also shows if you have a book like that or any sort of sets of holy books, you can find a quote to back up pretty much anything you want or turn one to do so. But, there may be factions on the board or within Lumen that are trying to keep the departments apart, and fostering this is one way to do that.
Okay, so hang on. As you were talking, I had a thought. The innies don't know that innies and outies are a new technology. I don't know for certain, but I think we have to assume that in the outie world, the severance procedure is somewhat new. But I think the innies might think that Severance has existed for a long time. And so they think there is a history of the departments that cannot be true. Agree or disagree?
That could be the case. Judging by the way the floor is with a lot of unoccupied areas or yet to be occupied areas, I think that you could say they're at the beginning of this venture, in at least in that respect. It's certainly a mature enough technology that we have evidence from the little bits of world building. Again, they're just phenomenal. That a subset of other companies in some instances have adopted it, that it is controversial, that there is pushback and citizens groups organizing against it, and the Congress is involved trying to find out what's up. So, no matter what, Lumen is feeling pressure. Those are all the things we know.
Yeah. All right. So, a little bit later, Herb decides that he's going to go visit optics and design, and he heads down there. He actually makes his own little map, and map making is very important to this episode, in my opinion. We'll talk about that more. So he gets down there. The other member, or what we think now is the other member, is wary of his presence. She heads out, and so that it's just Burt and Irv left alone, and they talk about the work that Burt does in optics and design. And Irv is just, talking about how much he appreciates the work, the paintings. So when they're up, it means so much to me. And he says, I hate to admit it, but I cried when I saw the Handle passage. And the Handle passage is a depiction of a young Keir being sick in bed, and I think he just decides he has the strength to get up out of a sick bed.
It's the young convalescence of Keir, or the convalescence of young Keir, I think.
Yeah. Do you know why they call it the Handle passage? I don't think it was very clear, so no demarks.
Maybe I don't know. They passed the handle of the spoon that had the medicine.
I kept looking for something like that. Yeah. There wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of like reverence is like very important to this show, and it's like made me think about it more, which is interesting. Like, Misha, you and I are fairly cynical, but at the same time passionate people. Like, is there anything that you are like? I think there's some things, but what are you like reverent for? Because there are things you love that I know you will be very like sarcastic about, and I'm the same way. So what do you think draws the line between the thing that you will make fun of but love, like Mr. TA, or things that you will actually be reverent for? What do you think draws the line for you? The show made me ask this question.
Okay, that's fine, and I would have to like
that's what makes it a good show. It makes you ask a deep question.
I am so cynical. No, it's not that I'm cynical. It's just that I think nothing is off limits for anything. So I give the things.
So can I make fun of Ganesh?
Yeah, if you want to. I make fun of him all the time. Right?
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Like
that side of you. I don't know. You seem very
yes, indeed. But also in more of a playful giving of shit kind of way, which is really ultimately, although it takes major orders of magnitude size.
I would have to have a really good joke.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But I understand that's not everyone's cup of tofu. But but even that everything is open, because that honestly, one of Ganesh's roles is like the trickster, the jokester, so he would be the first to be making the joke, right? So it's that sort of thing. I will say, if anything, I get touchy, and it taught me a great lesson, which is that you just have to take it, and I call it the Howard Stern lesson. But I listened to Howard Stern for years, and I was like, and he would bust on everybody. I'd be like, ah, ha, 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 ha. And then Jerry died, right? And he said something.
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
fuck yeah, so. I still get a little touchy about that. I'm like, oh yeah, you just don't fucking know, whatever. So there's that. But what about you, man?
So,
what about you? You're not getting.
I don't know. I don't like. I can happily make fun of all my idols, and I have many, but I will also like very easily make fun of them.
No, this is idols are easy, like regular.
Yeah. Like, so what? But like, what do I find to be sacred? Okay, so where do I draw the line between like something that you like, you do have to show respect for, and like, I don't know if I have anything. I think even if when I do have them, I think I'm faking it. Fuck.
Are you just phoning it in all the time?
No, like I know I'm always 75% sincere.
Well, it's only a C, right?
Yeah, I mean, you pass. Right? It means I'm graduating at Sincerity College.
With your degree in humility. So
I prepped this question. I did not. Why did I fucking expect you to turn it back on me?
Why did you expect me not to?
Yeah.
That's on you, man.
Yeah. No, but so I don't think the answer is the important thing. I think the important thing is the question. It's just like, listeners, like, think about like, what is stuff that you think is okay to make fun of, and what is stuff that is, you find sacred, reverent, is the way Dylan put it. And I mean, Misha, how long did it take you to start making 9/11 jokes?
Less than 24.
So between the first and the second building
who I knew was the sickest of fucks, and who would be right there, and I'm like, dude, I know you have one. He's like, I do. Here you go. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
Because that's now I should say in my defense slightly, like humor darker than the heart of the biggest black hole in the universe is a coping mechanism for me. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so I think one thing, I'll just be like extremely sincere. Like you can make fun of me about anything, but like if you like talk about my sister or my parents, I will get very touchy. So I mean, I guess that's it. Like
family.
I mean, yeah.
But not your wife, apparently.
No, because I know she has thick skin. I'll just stick her on you. I'll be like, "Hey, babe, listen to what this guy said," and then she'll come kick your ass herself.
Right. This is true.
But no.
Wait a minute. I think your sister can fend for herself too.
Yeah, no, you're right. So yeah,
in fact,
I don't know.
Let's tell her that your wife's
childhood. It goes.
No, it does go. Yeah. You're playing the defender role. But let's tell your sister that your wife is talking shit, and vice versa, and do like the Bugs Bunny, and get them into a fight and see which one is going to win. That'd be. I'll bet money on
basically that's. Yeah, those are all my nightmares come true at once.
Clearly. Sorry. All right, back to Severance after that.
Yeah, back to Severance.
40 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so while they're looking at the painting, Irv and Burt kind of like reach out and they touch hands. They start to flirt a little bit. So Irv and Burt got a thing going for love is in the air. Irv gets uncomfortable though because he knows that fraternization is not approved of, so he heads out of there. And but they do meet later in the episode. We're gonna stick with them. They meet by the fountain. There's this, and above the like the water fountain where you can get a drink, there is a painting of Kier standing over a river. So they have a little conversation about this painting, and they both say they don't like it. Do you remember this moment?
I do.
Okay, so I think this image is part of the cartoon you get when you complete a file. Do you remember that cartoon that happens when you complete a file?
Lights coming in.
Kier like jumps into the air and
he flies
flies
away, but he's standing on the rock at like kind of that promontory play. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's
nice.
so I think it's the same exact starting image. And so this goes back to a question I had last week. Dylan gets the waffle parties, which are his big reward, but then when he goes to that room, he's like, "Oh, I hate this place." Irv occasionally finishes a file, and that's his like reward. But then when he sees the painting, he's like, "Ugh." So I think I think they maybe subconsciously hate this because like they know it's like the method of control. And that's why Dylan actually hates the waffle party room, because it's what's controlling him. And Irv actually hates the painting that is his reward when he finishes a file, because he knows that's what makes him like such like a cog in the machine.
Maybe I don't think I see enough to think that is the case. Although, I mean, what would another explanation, be? Makes him uneasy.
Just two very random. So, like, it's only 2 data points, and I say on this podcast all the time, you need 3. But Dylan loves waffle parties, says he hates where they take place. Irving loves everything about
You can love pizza and ballrooms, but hate Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay. Irving is all about all the artwork. The one piece of artwork he doesn't like is the one he gets as a reward. So I feel like maybe these guys think they like the rewards, but on a subconscious level, don't.
Okay, but Burt says it makes him uneasy too. And Burt's not doing files and getting the reward, getting that reward.
Okay.
He does whatever he does.
I mean, we don't know that they get rewards.
No, but we don't know the nature of their rewards or the thing that they do, and if it lends itself to ultimately, in the end, coming to get that thing that looks like the painting.
So after that, they walk away, and they have this conversation, and we get this reminder that Irv falls asleep at work, and this is not the first reminder that we've gotten of this. And Dylan teased him about this earlier, and this is because outie Irv is staying awake all night to try to jog himself out of Severance, right? So they're really laying that in early on. But I'm really interested in this scene where they're talking about the book. And Burt says, "I'm more of a first edition man." What do you think that is? Is that like I'm more of an Old Testament man, or like?
No, I think that's more that I am more a. What is the damn name? It's not plenary. It's the idea that when you're talking about things like, scriptural or of a scriptural level or like laws of the universe kind of thing, the older your source is.
Oh, he's a constitutionalist.
Well, no, he's a, and I can't remember the name, but not a perpetual. God damn, it starts with a P. Yeah, so that like if what Kier said is as reported in the first edition will be less diluted and closer to what he actually said than any other edition that comes after it, because each subsequent edition will or stands the possibility of being changed in some way, and gradually changed over time. So the older the better, and the closer to the source or the utterance or whatever. That's what he's saying.
Okay. Did you take this
perennial
or did we not?
Perennialist? It's the perennial religion, like the older and older and older. And I have part of me really actually digs that, and that's why I like to do like the really old shit. So
yeah, and so I think there's a real interesting distinction made here between the ways you can interpret Kier's work. We'll call it Kier's work, right? And Irv is like, I shouldn't fall asleep at work. They say, do not sleep at my time. And Burt corrects him, and he says, like, no, in the early editions, it's said that whatever you do is an act of me. I thought we were going to have the clip, but we don't. The only part I actually wrote down is, I am your mouth. So it's like this idea that God speaks through you, right? Which is very different from you should adhere to the scripture. This other interpretation of religion is that whatever you feel is God's intention. Do you see this dichotomy that they're playing with here?
Yeah, very well. He's I actually have the clip. I just have it queued up and set up to drop in. So we may have already played it by now in the pod. I may drop it in post. So we may be acting like we don't know what we just heard. So
I always wonder this when I listen to really professional podcasts. They're like, they play the clip and then they all laugh. And I'm like, did you really just listen to it? Or did you just the producer just say, okay, I'm going to drop it in now, laugh?
If we were all in the same room, you would hear what I'm doing here on the board, like the stuff like that. It's because of, internet and YouTube broadcasting that you out there can't hear some of the shit.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so what was the question? It was, so
the dichotomy.
It's he says, you're my mouth. It was more like my works will go on through you and your utterances will carry the weight of my utterances. So it's like the deity or the cult leader, really. It will be speaking through me. And it's a way to empower your followers, but the followers can certainly use it as like a rationalization for having done it. Well, Kier says you need to take off your blouse, sweetie. So whatever. And it cuts both ways, but it's definitely different. And that's, I think the bigger point is it's definitely different in the first edition than in the edition that has Irving worried. And clearly the subsequent editions have in fact been tweaked by somebody, the board or the editors of the handbook or whatever, tweaked in a way that becomes increasingly favorable to Luhmann the business, I think, right? Do you get that sense?
Yeah, and I think it begs a really interesting question. Who's doing the editing? And what are they trying to accomplish by constantly giving out new versions of the handbook Bible? And the new tote makes it feel exciting, but
right, because in a world where getting a finger trap is an exciting and passable reward, right, and getting a gift certificate to Pip's VIP section, right, is something. Then the new tote bag becomes a real big thing. But I think who is doing it is probably, clearly some subset of Luhmann higher ups. And the why, I would guess at this point or suggest, is it morphs in whatever direction is most utilitarian to Luhmann at that time. you might be able to go back if you could get all the additions together and have the wherewithal to do, a real deep comparison of them. You could find things where on a particular stance it may have changed once and then changed back when that served them as well. But I think that's what's happening. I think that's the driving force is, what's good for Lumen. Because especially on the severed floors, I also suspect that the handbooks are also in the non-severed floors, but it's the whole shtick is a little bit different because they're non-severed. But with the innies, they can kind of mold them to all of this too. I mean, look at Irving, hook, line, and
I don't know
sinker.
if they're in the non-severed floors. Severed floors, they could get out into the open. I don't know if they're on the non-severed floors. I think the non-severed floors are very much just like general, like day-to-day.
Well, I know, but I meant like it's so pervasive in the company that I'm sure they are there, right? I can't imagine that they
because the monument is still there. Yeah,
the monument is still there. The whole thing is severed or not. Working at Lumen is a little weird and gets you looks. So,
do you think it's weird that like when Mark leaves for work, the parking lot is deserted? There's nobody, the normal unsevered people that are just like, oh, I got to put in a few extra hours tonight. Like when Mark leaves for work, the parking lot is always deserted every time.
That's true. And he only leaves at whatever, 5:15 or something.
5:15. Like, is there something like they do like, hey, normal employees, you got to clear out by 4:45 because we can't have you running in to the severed people. So everybody get the fuck out of here.
Maybe it's just a weird thing that they're doing. Maybe it's a gaslighting thing. But there might be a practical explanation.
No, it could be because if Mark leaves at the same time as everyone else, he walks out of the parking lot, he meets all these other people that work at Lumen. Lumen doesn't want him fraternizing with the day people. Or the non-severed people.
I don't think,
That's why he lives in this like community that is supposed to be Lumen employees. There's nobody else there except Cobel.
Oh, so you think the whole you got to get out by 4:45 is just for Mark or all the severed people? Because I don't think it's for all the severed people. I mean, you can't control who their outies run into and interact with. And, I work at Lumen too. Mark's not shy. Outie Mark's not shy about, admitting that he works at Lumen. He's a little reticent about saying he's severed, but everyone who works at Lumen. Most people there do.
Let me be clear what I'm saying. I think the unsevered people that work at the top floor of Lumen, the day-to-day workers that don't go down the elevator. Mm-hmm. I think they all get booted at 4:00. Got to go home. Got to get out of here. Got to clear the parking lot because they don't want them running in to Mark and Dylan and Irv and Burt and Helly. Mm-hmm. Because they don't want to be like, oh my God, you work at Lumen? I work at Lumen. I'm severed. You're not severed. Oh my God, let's talk. How much do you make? Blah, blah, blah. I think they go to extreme lengths, and that's why anytime Mark leaves the building, the parking lot is deserted.
Okay, so then you're also saying by extension that Dylan with his kids and maybe wife and Irving with his painting and certainly not Helly, but she's a special case. But Petey in his heyday, they all lived in kind of isolated situations where they had a minder living next door.
Well, I mean, no, that's a different question because that's about whether or not Mark is a super special case because of Gemma and Cobel is living next to him. I mean, does Millicek might live next door to Dylan. That's why when Dylan gets...
Oh, yeah, might be. Yeah. You never know. That's a good point.
All right, let's keep moving because we have a lot of fun stuff still to talk about. You got plenty of coffee with you, Misha?
Oh, yes.
All right, good. All right, so next we're going to talk about the map. We see Mark looking at the map. He puts it away. Helly notices him put it away. And later on, Helly steals it. And Helly won't give it back to him. And he says, it's against the rules to make a map because there is the rule, render not my creation in miniature. as a
Which is
a
a really funny quote to use in that instance. The
Yeah,
anti-map
that-
making.
So that reminds me of the like the golden calf. As a Catholic, I don't know if any of these references work for you.
No, I'm
But-
familiar with them.
You know about the golden calf, right? Yeah. So like it's, and later on the phrase like idolatrous, Irv says something, it's like an idolatrous, blah, blah, blah. So, there's this whole idea of like, do not worship any other thing than me. Do not recreate it in miniature, which I think is very cool. So we have this big showdown with the map, and during this, they argue about the work. This is where we get the line, it's mysterious and important. I think there's a little line in here that I think is fun, is that like, work used to be fun with Petey.
Mhm.
And this is like one of the other things that I think is so interesting about like the corporate dynamic. If you're the guy at work that makes like it fun to come to work, if you're the one that's joking around, are you like actually, you're like the class clown, but are you actually a utility to the corporate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways, if you're not doing
Yeah.
too many malicious things to them as part of your jokes and pranks.
So can I get like a job with like Apple, but I just come in and
Be
I
the
like
jester?
joke around and I make everyone love their job. I'm like, hey, bro, yeah, you got that code going? Let's go.
I would check to make sure that that's not already a position.
But there are more important things to talk about in this scene. So Mark, in an act of defiance, destroys the map just to prove to Helly, that he's like not all about it. And she like hits back at him pretty hard. She's like, your friend left this for you as his dying wish and you destroyed it. Like she hits him pretty hard. And now I've talked about in the last few episodes, and I think Mark is kind of more of a dick than it makes sense. But I think this episode actually kind of explains it, and it's all about the book. Mark was a bootlicker up until this episode when he reads the book. And the book says, like, your job needs you more than you need it. And that blows his mind because, like, he is such a simp, right? So I haven't watched, I mean, I have seen them, but not in a while. And my rewatch, I have not watched episode 5 through 9. Is this the moment when he reads the book that changes him from being a bootlicking simp to someone who is willing to go through with the coup at the end of the season?
The Rickon book?
The Rickon book, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to go back and talk about the map, though?
Yeah.
Okay. I think reading the Rickon book has a big effect on everybody, all the innies that read it.
So I think there's a connection between the book and the map, though. So they find the book and they open it and it says, to Mark, intrepid cartographer of the mind. Cartographer, one who makes maps. We've seen Irving in this episode make a map of the floor. And we have a moment where Dylan says all the sections that are on the map. I think there's like, I think the floor is supposed to represent different aspects of the mind. Wellness, which is like, where you take care of yourself. The break room, which is like where you hate yourself and feel guilt. Optics and design is where you like try to create the outer image that you put to the world. Where do we work?
Perpetuity, macro data refinement.
Macro data refinement is like where you try to like process everything, and that's like kind of where you live in your day to day, where you're trying to figure everything out. I like the cartography and the maps and this line that he put in the book to Mark. I think has to mean something. So, what do you think about the sections of the floor representing the pieces of the mind?
I think that's a pretty good and interesting theory, and something that would be worth doing a little bit more digging in, particularly now that I start to think of the shape of the map. We should bring up, I can do this. Is it working? There it is.
It doesn't matter as long as the viewer. Different levels.
Wait. What do you mean, like the QAnon people? Run that comparison out a little bit more.
Okay, so Mark is, a sheltered person in a very literal sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he reads this book and it provides all the answers. Right? So, and I think like the QAnon comparison would be like if you like have never really like understood the outside world, you're more likely to fall for a ridiculous explanation of what's really going on. Because the book, we agree the book is bad, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Ricken's book, you're a fan.
A society with festering workers cannot flourish, just as a man with rotting toes cannot skip. I mean, come on, dude. Don't you see? What separates man from machine is that machines cannot think for themselves. Also, they are made of metal, whereas man is made of skin. It's deep shit.
Okay, so what's your take?
Okay, so my take is it all comes down to this, and this is the attempt in the face of a consensual and therefore objective reality that will that does not care necessarily, and does not necessarily agree with what you think is going on. This quote, this is from the book. Oh, by the way, read the book. Read the fucking book. What is it to fail? My failure to break into the literary world in my 20s was devastating, yet it taught me a valuable lesson. That it was not me who was wrong, but literature itself. Okay, that's it. And there, to truly find my place in the world, I would first need to break it entirely. And so I did. Or so he thinks he did. I think that's what it is. It's like, if reality isn't going to go along with you, redefine reality, even if that means sticking your fingers in your ears and going, nah, I can't hear you.
And that's what we should do, or that's what we should.
No, I think that's what we shouldn't do, but that's what people do. I think that's the commentary here.
Yeah. Okay. No disagreement there. All right.
They cannot crucify you if your hand isn't a fist.
Yeah. All right. So, Petey's memorial service, Petey's wake. We start by finding out that Petey is in the news. A severed employee has died. Grainer and Cobel talk about this, and Cobel is very stern with him. She says, if you want to hug, go to hell and find your mother.
I know, she's right.
And he's unfazed by it. He's just like, Jesus.
Okay, so he's talking to Grainer. I really get the sense that they have a history, right? Ooh. There is probably that, but they are they have a level of familiarity that transcends The Office.
The way he says Jesus, that was a fucked up thing to say, but I'm actually not offended. Yeah,
or like for you, like he knows her thing. Like he's heard that before in other, possibly more intimate settings or whatever, and he knows how she is. Now, she's very mercurial, and this was one of the things, like I think I talked about it on the last pod, that like we know Cobel Selvig isn't severed, but she kind of acts like so two different ways of behaving when she's being Cobel down there saying shit like that, and up, in outie land where she's like ostensibly worried about Mark and making the cookies and doing all these other things.
Hang on. I hope I don't interrupt your train of thought here, but I think this is one of the brilliant things of the show is like, I am severed. I am a totally different person at work than I am when I'm not at work. So aren't we all just severed? And isn't that what you're saying about Cobel? Or is it something deeper than that?
No, I think I'm saying precisely that.
Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think
no.
That is the most brilliant thing about the show.
Yeah. I mean that really does show it. And she's the only non-severed Lumen employee whose outie, air quotes, life we see, right? We don't see Milchek. We don't see Grainer really. Grainer's out doing shit, but he's on the clock when he's doing it, so it's sort of he's still in character. Yeah, I always strive to be like the guy who's doing service, the Joker trickster and shit. And so my work life, there's shit like it's just so dull sometimes, and that you don't want to talk about it, but it's not like,
I feel like you were a Dylan.
I was,
and I don't mean that as an insult. Like you were a cooler Dylan.
Not in the sense that I was ever trying for any sort of reward, which I knew was not going to be forthcoming from my employers. But other than those that were negotiated. But given that, what the fuck did I have to lose? And then, the fates provided me with certain packets of information over the course of my regular duties that certainly gave me a sense of, or certainly gave me.
And I was either a Mark or a Dylan. Like, I was like pretending like I didn't care, but I still wanted like either the rewards of fake leadership. So, or, like I wanted to be like, yeah, I don't really care, but yeah, I'm still really good at my job. Like I'm awesome at this, but I don't care. Like, so that was kind of Dylan, but
yeah,
I also kind of wanted like to be rewarded with fake leadership positions. So that's like kind of Markish too. I don't know.
Yeah. I couldn't give a shit about a title. They always try and give you I don't want a title. I want money. Okay. You can call me an intern. Just pay me, 120 or whatever the fuck. So
fuck you, pay me.
Fuck you. Right. Me. Fuck you, pay me. And then, it all depends on your job, because in some jobs you can fine tune things so that your day to day is really fucking chill, and you only need to get stressed out if something big happens. And if you've really got it dialed in, you don't. Those things are so few and far between that you can just totally chill.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so like I think I was like more of a Mark in that I would like fall for. I was literally a Mark in that I would like fall for the fake promotion. Be like, oh, yeah, now I'm a teacher of teachers, but my salary hasn't really gone up. I've just gotten fucking more work to do.
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, so we're at the Petey Memorial, and Cobel is there because she needs to get the chip, and
they know he's going to be cremated.
Yeah,
so they got to get the chip.
I think so. This is something I didn't understand the first time. Normally, I don't think they need the chip because outies probably die all the time. Like
no, it's because Petey was reunited. Whatever.
They only need it because he got reintegrated. Right. That's why.
Because specifically, they think whoever did it, they'll be able to figure out by some sort of traces that are left on the chip that they had to perform. Like there may be some like signature, radiation or the way that they did it'll give it away or something.
So Cobel is like, Mark, why are you here? And Mark covers very well. He's like, oh, I saw in the news that he's at Lumen. I thought maybe I knew him, so I just came here. Very good cover.
Let me ask you this before we get too far into the funeral. Going back to the demise of Petey, it's left sort of as a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode. He just kind of collapses. Do you think, because there's chatter online to this effect, of course, because there's always going to be, that his demise was anything other than, the end result of the processes we saw at the store? Or do you think, Lumen stepped in and tried to do a Godfather and go to the hospital and just make sure, everything was taken care of with Petey?
I understood everything you said by go to the hospital. You mean go to the hospital. He died at a gas station.
No, but did he die at the gas station or did he get taken to the hospital, right? And then maybe they're going to resuscitate, maybe they're going to bring him back, maybe he's going to survive, and then Lumen comes in and offs him in some way.
So
I don't know. I don't remember the specifics of the thing, but I saw some people talking about
I understand what you're asking now.
Yeah.
But if Lumen was going to kill it, they would have just taken the chip at that point. Because they do not want reintegration becoming public.
Well, clearly. Oh, like right there, they would have.
They would have just taken the chip.
If they could have. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sending Selvig to go or Cobel to go to the funeral with the Black & Decker. Go check it out. Go check it out at corporate. The drill.
Yeah. And this episode also confirms what we talked about last week. Like, one of the things I bitched about is that the board pretends that reintegration doesn't even exist.
Right.
And so it's like Cobel, like one of her best lines in the last episode, she's like, I'll just fucking take care of this like I take care of everything. She says that in the last line. It's one of my favorite lines ever, just because like I felt like that sometimes, like, no one else is going to deal with it. I'll just fucking take care of it, Like,
one more thing you got to do. Why not?
Yeah. So the fact that she's the one that goes to the, memorial service and drills into his brain while everyone else is singing Enter Sandman and pulls out the chip she's just like, she is the GOAT of Lumen,
of the severed floor. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So another thought I had about this scene is so Mark is there at the thing and Cobel is there too, and she immediately smothers him, which is one of the other things that always triggers me. And he's like, I gotta get away. I gotta go get some wine. And it really reminded me of the finale, because at the finale, when they're at Rickon's book reading, it's the same dynamic. They both happen to be at an event, and Cobel needs to follow him around because of work. It's very reminiscent of that final scene in the finale. So Mark meets the ex-wife, who clearly doesn't like Lumen, so she hated. And the wife is mad about Lumen. And they kind of imply that Petey severed for similar reasons that Mark did, because of a divorce. He didn't want to deal with his divorce, so he severed. So if I have one criticism of the series, I just wish they had just spelled this out better. Just being like, people couldn't go to work every day because of divorce or because of a wife's death. So they severed. I wish they just said that. I mean, at this point, I guess I get it.
Now we know.
So it's fine. Yeah. What did you think of the Enter Sandman video? You Metallica fan?
Won't be my choice. Not while you're going to be playing the video of me, but to each their own. More power to him. It's cool that he and his daughter got to jam together. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
While it's going, Cobel successfully extracts the implant. And then Mark goes to the crash site.
Can we just pause for a moment about the absurdity of that? I mean, it's beautiful and it's awesome and it's just perfect for the show. And yet, when you really think about what actually just occurred, it's crazy, but it's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Something tells me
There's-
that might have been the brainchild of Ben Stiller. Oh, have her drill it out of his head. I don't know why, but that's just a thought.
I seriously doubt she could have actually pulled that off.
Yeah. In fact, next funeral you go to, folks, try it. You don't have to take anything out, but just try to get to the point where you've got a hole drilled in the corpse's skull with
And nobody sees you do it.
Or just
All
to
right.
show up at a funeral with a drill.
Yeah, where was the drill the whole time?
It had to have been in her big ass handbag or something like that. But still, nonetheless, showing up with a drill. You're going to take some core samples.
All right, so back down to the floor. Helly has had enough. She gets the guillotine. And for those of you that don't work in an office, it is a paper cutter that has a handle and a very sharp blade. And she takes it and puts her hand under it and bursts into Cobel's office and says, I'm going to cut my fingers off. I really love the line delivery of, do you think I'm like fucking around? And Cobel says, no, I do not. I love that line delivery.
Yeah.
So she says she wants to make a video and she's going to take that video upstairs and show it to her outie. And they all go along. And another just like a great line is when she says, well, boss, I guess this is when I tell you to go to hell,
Right.
but you're already here.
Yeah. Oh, but then
that-
the coup de grace, right? The cherry on top. Go ahead.
What's the coup de grace?
I was never sorry.
Oh, yeah. And then like she goes up and immediately comes right back down with a different colored video in her hand. She watches the video and she gets to see her dressed exactly as she was the day before, saying, I am a person you are not. Which that line stuck with me. I like when I was watching it this time, I knew exactly what she was going to say. That line fucking stuck with me so hard. So where do you think Helly's at now? Well, I guess we should maybe keep going before I ask for your analysis of Helly. So the final scene, Dylan now has the book and he's reading the acrostic poem of,
Destiny.
Destiny. And it's
D is for dreaming, the start of it all. E is for energy, breaking down walls. S is for stewardship of home and of earth. T is for terror, which gives us more worth. Okay, let that one sink in. Okay. I is for eyes, which observe with love, until N, meaning newness, rains down from above. And why? That's a question we needn't now ponder, for destiny, friends, shall deliver all yonder. By Jack Handy, the deepest of thoughts.
Also during this like montage, Irv finds the big department,
Yeah,
which is still, is that still O&D or is that a
that's
different
O&D.
department? Okay, so it's not actually a 2-person department. There's
No.
many more people.
No.
Okay, so and then the real denouement of the episode is Helly hanging herself in the elevator. And so, Misha, I'm going to end on this note. So, do you have any more final thoughts? I got one final question.
No, I got a big thing about Helly, and it goes back to something I think we talked about on last pod, and we're pondering about how much of your intrinsic, basic personality, cuts across both innie and outie. Like if you're feisty innie, are you going to be feisty outer, and on and out. And there's two lines that Helly says, one by the innie and one by the outie, that are shockingly similar. At one point, I think when Helly gets denied, her request to quit, she says something about like, I want to leave the outie me, writhing in pain, like, and knowing, like dying, writhing in pain, and knowing that I did this to her. Okay, like super, like, just it doesn't matter if I go down, you'll go down too. I want to just rip your heart out and hold it in your eyes and let you watch me take a bite out of it as you're dying. Kind of really harsh vengeance shit. That's innie Helly. Outie Helly, okay, on that tape in response to the hand cutting thing, says, I will keep you alive long enough to regret it. I mean, this is shit that we could imagine Cersei saying, both of those lines, right? Okay, and that's innie and outie. So I found those two, and I was like, wow, that goes to that point that clearly there is some sort of bedrock. We called it feistiness before, but this is a little more twisted than that cuts across and bubbles up in both innie and outie.
Yeah. Very good analysis, and I think I'm really excited for a second season to maybe find out that both Hellys are shitty, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly been led to sympathize with innie Helly, because
So could be.
she's the captive one. So saying something like writhing in pain, knowing that I did this to you, it's a little more understandable coming from Helly now. She's going to some super extremes, like killing herself in order to kill the outie and make the point, or just to give herself relief from this, perpetual Sisyphusian hell that she's in. But the outie saying, I will keep you, if you cut off my fingers, right, essentially, I will keep you alive long enough to regret it. I mean, considering like all you have to do is, also think about that, and this just occurred to me, long enough to regret it. So what are you going to do? Have someone torture her? It's your body too, right? So you're going to like mentally torture her down there in the floor and finally never go back again, and that will be it for her. I mean, it's the whole Severance thing is brilliant in how fucked up it is, and the more you think about it and the more we discuss it, the more fucked up it's becoming in my head.
Okay. So can I take it to an even more fucked up level?
Oh, the more fucked up, the better. I told you,
Okay. Yeah. So I think the one thing any Helly knows is that it can't be an eternity, because eventually outie Helly is going to die. So you're at least safe from being trapped in an eternity. One of my biggest fears is like being trapped in some eternal hell. Like, as long as something's going to end, I'm fine with it. Like, so Helly, any Helly at least knows that, right? So if I was in any Helly's position, and I just want to tell everyone, I'm like, I have good days and bad days, but never in my life have I thought about killing myself. Because there's always, tomorrow I can have a cheeseburger,
Yep.
I can have a drink, I can watch a TV show, I can do a podcast. It's never a day that's even close. But if I was any Helly, I think I would.
I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, putting it in the terms of the fact that the only way she's going to get out of there is, okay, so if outie Helly dies, or if outie Helly retires, like outie Irving does in an episode or two, right? And then innie Irving ceases to exist, just as if outie Irving died. It's functionally the same thing, because if you never come back down the elevator again, then innie whoever never comes into consciousness again. It's a whole nother level of fucked up shit to think about, right?
Yeah, but you need to answer the question too. If you're any Helly, are you hanging yourself?
Yes, because it doesn't matter either way. You're going to get shut off, so you may as well get her too. Yeah, that
Yes.
calculus. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. You gotta get the outie too.
Right, which is the
outie.
same shitty revenge shit that the innie and the outie both share, and that was the thing that I was making my point about. Thank you for proving that to me. All right.
All right. Shall we wrap up?
Wrap it up. Let's like and subscribe and hit the notification bell because, like I said, we are dropping these things like hotcake, and there's a lot more to go. And if they're not going to bring this show back to October, man, we're going to go through every word and every little thing and be ready when season 2 comes back. Also, other shit going on in the year. Stay with us. As you see, I finally got something up on the screen in the middle of the show, so we're working through all the technical stuff. I'm learning like 4 different programs at a time, but we will be here. Oh, and we'll do a live stream soon. We're just getting our feet wet and getting comfortable with all the controls and stuff like that. So thank you guys super very much for tuning in. We'll be back in the next couple of days to drop the next episode 5. We're halfway. No, there's 8 or 9. There's 9. Right?
We're more than halfway tomorrow because it's 9, which we will talk about.
Okay. All right.
My biggest pet peeve of the show.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, it's better than 8, but it's not as good as 10 or 13. All right, folks. We'll see you again then. Peace.
Good night.